Underdog Crown 与 Cold Queen's Warm Fall Part 1 Bar Encounter 与 Initial Misunderstanding After a year-end business negotiation and family dispute, Serena Hale is physically and mentally exhausted. She leaves the corporate annual party alone and walks into a trendy late-night bar in central London to get drunk and vent her suppressed emotions that she has never dared to show in front of others. She abandons her rigorous workplace disguise, drinks one glass of wine after another, and the long-term pressure and grievance completely break out under the influence of alcohol. Silas Knight happens to pass by the bar after finishing a trivial private matter. He is dressed in a sloppy ordinary casual outfit, wandering the street like a jobless idle young man. He has no intention of striking up a conversation, but accidentally sees Serena leaning unsteadily at the bar entrance, drunk and weak, completely different from her domineering and cold public image. The late-night London wind is cold, and Serena is alone with no one to accompany her, on the verge of collapsing. Silas, with a soft and kind nature, can't bear to leave a drunk girl alone on the late-night street, so he takes the initiative to step forward, take over her staggering body, and send her back to the 5-star hotel suite she booked nearby. Throughout the whole process, Silas keeps a proper distance, takes good care of her simply and gentlemanly, arranges her to lie down safely, prepares warm water for her, and leaves quietly after confirming she is safe. However, Serena wakes up in a daze the next morning, finds herself lying on the hotel bed disheveled, and sees a strange unfamiliar man beside her. Her long-term defensive mentality makes her mistakenly think that Silas has taken advantage of her while she was drunk. The first encounter ends with a serious misunderstanding. The cold and domineering female CEO is furious and guarded against this sloppy ordinary loser, while Silas finds this tough girl who pretends to be strong and blusters very cute, and has a faint special impression of her. The two people are inexplicably bound together by this accidental late-night encounter. Part 2 Frequent Encounters 与 Gradual Bonding Due to accidental overlapping social and business circles, the two meet frequently in various occasions. In the eyes of Serena's colleagues and business partners, Silas is just an ordinary unemployed drifter with no status and no money, completely incompatible with the high-flying female CEO. Serena is always cold and alienated to him, full of prejudice and misunderstanding, and even tries to avoid contact with him. Silas always treats her with his unique humorous and gentle attitude. He never argues with her cold attitude, never exposes her fragility, and always uses casual jokes to resolve her embarrassment and coldness. He observes her carefully, sees through her forced strength in the workplace, sees her helplessness after being wronged by her family, and sees the hidden loneliness under her domineering aura. Their personalities are highly complementary. Silas's casualness and gentleness dissolve her rigidity and coldness. Serena's seriousness and toughness bring a unique vitality to Silas's idle ordinary life. Silas is the only person who does not fear her aura, does not covet her status, and only sees her as an ordinary girl who needs to be loved. Serena is the only person who makes Silas willing to take the initiative to pay attention and take the initiative to approach, after hiding his identity for many years. In the process of repeated contact, Serena gradually finds that this loser man is far more delicate, reliable and wise than he looks. He can always accurately comfort her when she is under great work pressure, silently help her resolve trivial workplace troubles, and tolerate her bad temper and cold disguise. Part 3 Hidden Hardships 与 Emotional Falling Serena's family pressure breaks out completely. Her parents rush to London from their hometown, accuse her of being unfilial, deny her career achievements, force her to give up her career and return to her hometown to marry, and completely trample on her years of hard work and persistence. For the first time, the strong female CEO collapses completely, unable to hold back her tears in front of Silas. She finally reveals her inner fragility to him. She has been working hard to be strong all her life just to prove herself, but she has never received understanding and warmth from her family. She is tired of being invulnerable, and longs to be protected and loved like an ordinary girl. Silas never preaches empty truths. He silently stands behind her, helps her resolve the family conflict gently and powerfully, uses his hidden resources to shield her from trivial disturbances, and tolerates all her unease and vulnerability. He uses the most down-to-earth gentleness to tell her that she doesn't need to be strong all the time, and she can be weak and coquettish in front of him. During this period, Serena completely lets go of her prejudice against Silas. She finds that although he looks sloppy and ordinary, he has an extremely noble soul and unprecedented sense of responsibility. She gradually falls in love with this man who can always warm her and shelter her, and begins to take the initiative to rely on him, letting her cold heart bloom slowly. Part 4, Identity Reveal 与 Deep Healing Love. A sudden high-end British business summit becomes the turning point of the story. Serena's company encounters a malicious capital siege and industry suppression, and she falls into the biggest career crisis since starting her business. She tries her best to save the situation, but is helpless in the face of top-tier capital and resource gaps, and is on the verge of collapse. Just when she is desperate, Silas suddenly appears at the top business summit that only British core elites can attend. He takes off his sloppy casual disguise, changes into a formal elite suit, and reveals his true identity as the core controller of the Knight family's political and business resources. Serena is completely shocked. She finally knows that the ordinary loser she has always misunderstood is the top hidden big shot standing at the top of British business and politics. All the silent protection and help he gave her are the most precious tenderness hidden behind his low profile. Silas resolutely helps Serena resolve the capital crisis, suppresses all malicious competitors, and safeguards all her career achievements. But he never asks for anything in return, still treats her gently as always, and only hopes that she can be happy and relaxed. After the identity is revealed, the two people's emotions are completely settled. Serena completely lets go of all her pretense and strength, completely releases her fragile side, and learns to rely on and be coquettish. Silas is also willing to completely open his heart, ending his long-term idle hidden life, and having a real sustenance and belonging. Part 5, Gentle 与 Perfect Healing Ending. The story ends with a full healing state. Serena no longer forces herself to be an invincible strong woman. She retains her career ambition and ability, but learns to be soft and relaxed, no longer bearing all the pressure alone. She gets rid of the shackles of her original family, gains thorough emotional relief, and has the warmth and protection she has longed for all her life. Silas no longer hides his strength blindly, but still maintains his gentle and low-key nature. He does not use his identity and power to bind anyone, but only uses his ability to shelter his lover. His ordinary and casual life finally has a unique and firm direction because of Serena. The two people's personalities are perfectly complementary and integrated. His casual gentleness heals her defensive coldness, her persistent toughness enriches his idle life. They bid farewell to loneliness and disgust respectively, bind each other for a lifetime, and usher in a warm, stable and healing long-term love, completing the most perfect redemption and healing for each other. Chapter 1, Drunken Night at Central London Bar 与 a Random Encounter. The neon lights of central London blurred through the damp night fog, painting the expansive street facades in streaks of pink and cold blue. It was nearly midnight, and the bustling financial district that had been packed with suits and negotiations all day finally sank into lazy, indulgent nightlife. Luxury cars glided past the road, bar windows steamed with warm light, and the faint sound of jazz and laughter drifted through the cool night wind. Serena Hale stepped out of the grand annual corporate gala venue, and the moment the door closed behind her, the icy, perfect smile on her face completely faded. Gone was the domineering, calm, invincible female CEO who had stood on the stage just now, delivering speeches confidently, controlling the overall situation, and making countless industry seniors nod in admiration. At this moment, under the lonely London night, she was just a tired woman who had held on for too long. Her tall figure was wrapped in a tailored black professional suit, the fabric stiff and neat, outlining her cold and powerful aura. The low ponytail behind her head was neat and rigorous, without a single strand of hair out of place. Her cold blue eyes, usually sharp and decisive enough to suppress all business opponents, were now covered with a thick layer of fatigue and trivial grievance that no one could detect. She had just ended a 3-hour harsh business negotiation, followed by a meaningless hypocritical social gala. What was worse, half an hour ago, she had received a long accusing voice message from her parents in her hometown in northern England. No comfort, no concern, no affirmation of her years of hard work and struggle in London. Only endless blame, incomprehension and forced demands. You're too stubborn. Being a female boss is useless. Come back home, marry a stable man, and live an ordinary life. You never listen to us. You're unfilial and selfish. The cold words repeated in her mind like a loop, eroding her long-prepared calm and toughness little by little. Serena raised her head slightly, looking at the dark night sky without stars, and let out a silent breath of cold air. For 27 years, she had been forcing herself to be strong. Born in a rigid and cold family, she had no parental shelter, no family backing, and could only rely on her own hands to fight her way out of the small town step by step, breaking into the cruel London business circle. She had suffered setbacks, been wronged, fallen and cried secretly countless times, but she never showed any weakness in front of anyone. She had become a cold, domineering and powerful female CEO in everyone's eyes, but only she knew how fragile and lonely her heart was. She was tired of being an invulnerable strong person. Deep in her heart, she longed to be a protected little bird, to put down all her guards and strength, and to be pampered and tolerated unconditionally. Tonight, the accumulated pressure and grievance finally reached the critical point of collapse. She turned around and walked straight towards the most popular late-night bar on the street, her high heels tapping on the clean stone road, crisp and lonely in the quiet night. She never drank in public, never indulged, never allowed herself to have any uncontrollable emotions. But tonight, she wanted to be willful once, to abandon her identity, her career, her pretense, and just get drunk to escape all the trivial pains. The bar was noisy and warm, completely isolated from the cold night outside. Dim ambiguous lights, melodious slow jazz, the clinking of wine glasses and low chatter of crowds filled every corner. Serena found a secluded seat at the bar, took off her delicate formal suit coat, revealing a neat white shirt inside, and raised her hand to order wine directly without any hesitation. The strongest cocktail you have. Double portion. The bartender was slightly stunned. Looking at the woman's cold and noble temperament, he knew she was not a regular drunk guest, but he still quickly prepared the wine as required. Serena held the transparent wine glass, the cold liquid shaking slightly in the glass. She raised her head and drank it all in one gulp. The strong alcohol burned her throat and chest fiercely, bringing a slight stinging pain, but also temporarily numbing the tiredness and grievance in her heart. One glass after another, she never stopped. She ignored the curious glances from the people around her, ignored the noisy environment, and just buried all her emotions in the intoxication. After more than an hour of continuous drinking, her sober mind was completely occupied by alcohol. The cold and rigorous disguise on her face completely collapsed. Her cheeks were flushed, her cold blue eyes were hazy and blurred, and her tall straight figure began to stagger and sway uncontrollably. She paid the bill in a daze, picked up her coat and bag, and stumbled out of the bar door. The cold night wind rushed towards her face, making her dizzy and weak. She couldn't stand steadily at all, leaning against the cold wall of the bar, her whole body weak and shaky, on the verge of collapsing. The bustling crowd faded away, the noise disappeared, and the whole world was quiet and cold, leaving only her alone, helpless and vulnerable. It was at this moment that Silas Knight appeared. He walked slowly along the street with unhurried steps, wearing a loose faded gray hoodie, a pair of worn black casual pants, and scuffed white sneakers on his feet. His black-brown hair was messy and lazy, slightly blown by the night wind, and his deep forest green eyes carried a consistent casual and lazy smile. He looked completely like an ordinary idle young man wandering the street late at night, with no luxury clothes, no noble temperament, no outstanding status aura, sloppy and casual, just like a drifting ordinary London youth with no stable job and no great future. No one would know that this seemingly ordinary loser was the sole heir of the century-old Knight family, the hidden top-tier big shot who controlled countless political and business resources in the UK. Silas had just settled a trivial family private business. Tired of the rigid and hypocritical upper-class dinner party, he deliberately changed into ordinary casual clothes and wandered the street alone, enjoying the rare ordinary and free night. When he passed the bar entrance, his lazy footsteps suddenly paused. His forest green eyes fell on the tall woman leaning against the wall not far away. He recognized her at a glance. Serena Hale, the famous tough female CEO in London's youth business circle, a cold and aloof beauty who was well known for her strength and rigor. He had seen her once at a casual business reception, standing tall and cold, invincible, controlling the whole audience with her strong aura, making countless elite men dare not approach easily. But at this moment, she was completely different from the domineering and powerful appearance in the rumors. She was drunk and unsteady, her neat hairstyle was slightly messy, her cold eyes were hazy and weak, her whole body leaned weakly against the wall, and her slender fingers were clutching the corner of the wall tightly, as if she was relying on this little strength to support her collapsing body. The cold night wind blew her long hair, and the invulnerable strong aura on her body completely dissipated, leaving only helpless fragility and lonely tiredness. Silas frowned slightly, and the casual smile on his face faded a little. It was late at night, the street was sparsely populated, and a drunk beautiful woman staying alone at the bar entrance was extremely dangerous. He was lazy and unrestrained by nature, never meddling in other people's business, but looking at the woman's fragile and lonely appearance at this moment, he couldn't bear to leave her alone. Silas walked forward slowly, stopping in front of her. His voice was low, lazy and gentle, with a unique London casual tone, without any frivolity or aggression. "Hey, you alright? You can't stay here drunk alone at midnight." Serena's hazy eyes slowly focused, looking up at the strange man in front of her. Her alcohol-blurred mind couldn't distinguish his appearance and temperament clearly, only felt that the man in front of her was dressed ordinary and sloppy, like an ordinary passerby on the street. Her long-term defensive mentality made her instinctively vigilant. She tried to straighten her body, raised her cold tone, and tried to maintain her domineering and indifferent appearance, but her staggering voice completely exposed her weakness. "I'm fine, leave me alone." As soon as the words fell, her body softened suddenly, and she was about to fall to the ground. Silas quickly reached out his hand in time, steadily holding her shaky waist, supporting her whole body firmly. The warm and steady strength came from the stranger's palm, which was particularly clear in the cold night wind. Serena's dizzy brain was slightly shocked, and she subconsciously wanted to struggle, but her whole body had no strength at all. Silas felt the slight struggle of the person in his arms, and his movements became more gentle and steady, without any excessive contact or frivolous behavior. He just firmly supported her staggering body, his eyes calm and clear. "Don't move. You'll fall. Where's your hotel? I'll take you back safely." Serena's consciousness was fragmented and chaotic. She couldn't remember the way clearly, and could only vaguely spit out the name of the five-star hotel nearby. Facing this strange ordinary man who suddenly appeared, she was full of vigilance, but at this moment of extreme weakness, she couldn't resist at all. She could only lean weakly in his arms, letting him support her to walk forward step by step. Silas bent down slightly, adjusted his posture steadily, and carried her gently on his back in the most labor-saving and gentlemanly way, avoiding any awkward and excessive contact. The cold and domineering female CEO, who was invincible in the business circle, lay weakly on the back of this seemingly sloppy ordinary man at this moment, completely losing all her sharp edges and corners. The night wind brushed their cheeks, and the noisy street gradually faded behind them. No one knew that this accidental late-night encounter at the London bar entrance was the beginning of a tight, irreversible bond between the hidden top-tier boss and the lonely cold female CEO. It was the start of their mutual redemption and gentle healing that would last for a lifetime. Chapter R: Misunderstanding and Weariness. The walk back to the Grand Thames Hotel stretched slow and soft beneath the muted London night. Silas moved at an unhurried pace, his steps steady and effortless even with Serena's full weight resting lightly on his back. He had adjusted his posture perfectly earlier, one arm curved gently beneath her knees to support her, the other loosely hovering by his side, never straying into inappropriate contact, adhering strictly to the decency of a stranger doing a good deed. Serena's consciousness floated in a hazy, drunken fog, half awake and half asleep. The sharp coldness that had fortified her all day melted completely under the quiet warmth of his body. Her forehead rested lightly against the back of his grey hoodie, the faint scent of clean cedar and faint citrus laundry detergent wrapping around her, far more reassuring than the luxurious perfume she wore for business occasions. She was used to the cold, metallic smell of office buildings, the stale air of meeting rooms, and the empty silence of her high-rise apartment. No one had ever carried her when she was weak. No one had ever slowed down their pace to accommodate her fragility. For a fleeting moment, the guard buried deep in her heart loosened, and she subconsciously nestled closer, her long chestnut hair spilling over his shoulder, brushing lightly against his collarbone. Silas felt the subtle movement behind him, and a faint, indulgent smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. His forest green eyes, always lazy and playful, softened imperceptibly under the street lamp glow. He had watched Serena hail from afar more than once over the past 2 years. Not out of deliberate pursuit, but because she was impossible to ignore. In every industry gala, every business forum, she stood out like a sharp, icy diamond cold, unyielding, shining too bright for the mediocre crowd around her. Everyone praised her for being tough, decisive, and invulnerable. But no one ever stopped to wonder if she was tired of carrying everything alone. He saw the tiny cracks in her perfect facade long before tonight. The way she would zone out for 10 seconds after a brutal negotiation, the faint dark circles she tried to cover with concealer, the rigid way she kept everyone at arm's length to avoid being hurt. She was a woman who had built an impenetrable wall around her heart. And the alcohol tonight had finally knocked down a single brick, letting him catch a glimpse of the vulnerable girl hiding inside. "You work too hard," Silas muttered under his breath, his voice low enough that her drunken ears could not catch it. His tone was not pity, but gentle understanding, the kind of insight that came from seeing through the hypocrisy of the upper class and the desperation of struggling ordinary people all at once. 10 minutes later, he arrived at the entrance of the Grand Thames Hotel, a towering 5-star landmark standing quietly by the river. The doorman in a neat uniform stepped forward respectfully, ready to greet the distinguished guest, but paused slightly when he saw Silas's casual dress and Serena's drunken state. The subtle look of surprise and faint disdain in his eyes did not escape Silas's notice, but he did not care in the slightest. He had long been accustomed to the world judging people by their appearance. The Knight family's power did not need fancy clothes or luxury watches to prove itself, and he had long grown tired of the superficial vanity of the elite circle. He only cared about sending the unconscious woman on his bed to safety. Silas fumbled lightly in Serena's handbag, finding her room card with the room number clearly printed on the surface. He bypassed the lobby crowd, took the exclusive guest elevator, and soon arrived at the top-floor presidential suite she had booked for her business stay. The suite was spacious, luxurious, and minimalist, decorated in cold gray and white tones exactly matching Serena's usual austere style. Silas gently bent down and lowered her steadily onto the soft king-size bed, his movements meticulous and gentle, careful not to jostle her. After laying her flat, he straightened up and tucked the soft white quilt gently over her shoulders, covering her neatly from her shoulders to her calves, preventing her from catching a cold in the air-conditioned room. He then walked to the mineral water dispenser by the window, poured a cup of warm water, placed it on the bedside table, and even tore open a pack of honey lemon fruit lozenges, arranging them neatly beside the water cup to soothe her alcohol-dried throat when she woke up. He checked the room temperature, adjusted the air conditioner to a mild 22 degrees Celsius, drew the thick blackout curtains tightly to block the dazzling morning sunlight that would rise early, and turned down the brightness of the indoor chandelier to a soft dim glow suitable for sleeping. Every detail was thoughtful and considerate, far beyond the scope of a stranger's casual kindness. Finally, after confirming that there was no hidden danger in the room and that Serena was sleeping soundly and steadily, Silas planned to leave quietly. He had no intention of taking advantage of her drunkenness, no desire for any improper gain. He simply could not bear to leave a helpless woman alone in the cold night, and this small act of kindness was enough for him. But just as he turned to step toward the door, a weak, subconscious grabbing force suddenly tugged at the corner of his hoodie. Serena was still half asleep, her eyes tightly closed, her brows slightly furrowed as if she was trapped in an uneasy dream. Her slender white fingers clutched the hem of his gray clothes tightly, knuckles slightly white from the force, refusing to let go. "Don't go," she mumbled in a hoarse, drunken murmur, her voice soft and fragile, completely different from her cold, commanding tone in the workplace. "Don't leave me alone." Silas's footsteps froze instantly. His heart, which had always been lazy and indifferent to all trivial matters, trembled faintly at that moment. He had never seen Serena hail weak. In everyone's eyes, she was a fearless female warrior, climbing steadily in the cruel business jungle, never yielding, never begging, never showing weakness. But at this moment, in her drunken sleep, she was just a lonely girl who was afraid of being abandoned. Silas stared down at the slender hand clutching his clothes, his forest green eyes deepening with unspoken tenderness. He could forcefully pull away and leave, no one would know, no one would blame him. But he could not bring himself to do it. After a moment of silence, he sighed softly, a faint smile on his lips. "You're really troublesome when you're asleep." He did not wake her up, nor did he break free from her grip. Instead, he simply leaned against the soft sofa by the bedside, maintaining a relaxed sitting posture, letting her hold his clothes for comfort. He planned to stay for an hour, waiting for her drunken sleep to deepen and her grip to loosen naturally, then leave without disturbing her. The room fell into quiet tranquility. The only sounds were Serena's steady breathing and the faint rustle of London's night wind outside the window. Silas sat lazily on the sofa, his long legs stretched out casually, his gaze quietly falling on the sleeping woman on the bed. Her cold, sharp facial features softened completely in her sleep, no longer intimidating, no longer aloof. The flush from alcohol still lingered on her fair cheeks, her long eyelashes drooping like delicate butterfly wings, casting faint shadows on her eye sockets. She looked fragile and harmless, nothing like the domineering CEO who could crush a competitor's capital chain with a single decision. Silas watched her quietly, his mind calm and unhurried. He was used to spending his nights alone, either dealing with tedious family business or wandering the streets aimlessly to escape the constraints of his identity. This quiet night of guarding a sleeping stranger was unexpectedly peaceful, a rare sense of warmth he had never experienced in his long years of hiding. Time passed minute by minute. The hour hand of the wall clock slowly slid past 2 in the morning. Serena's drunken grip finally loosened slightly. Silas waited a few more minutes, confirming that she was in a deep, stable sleep, then gently pulled his clothes free without waking her. He took one last look at the room, confirmed all facilities were normal, and turned to walk toward the door, ready to leave. What he did not expect was that Serena's sleep was extremely light after drinking. The slight movement of his departure pulled her out of her deep sleep. Her long eyelashes trembled, and she slowly opened her hazy blue eyes. Her mind was still heavy with alcohol, consciousness blurred and sluggish. The first thing she saw when she opened her eyes was a tall male figure standing by the bed, his back facing her, seemingly preparing to leave her hotel room in the middle of the night. Memories of last night flooded back, fragmented and chaotic. Cold night wind, unsteady steps, a stranger's support, being carried on someone's back. Her brain, paralyzed by alcohol, automatically pieced together the most terrifying and malicious scenario. She was drunk, unconscious, alone in a hotel room with a strange man who had stayed by her side all night. The long-term defensive instinct forged by years of wandering and struggling alone in London exploded instantly. All her hidden vulnerability was replaced by extreme alertness, panic, and anger. "Who are you?" Serena sat up abruptly from the bed, her voice sharp and cold, instantly restoring the imposing tone of a female CEO. The drowsiness and fragility in her eyes vanished completely, replaced by icy vigilance and raging anger. She pulled the quilt tightly to cover her body, her whole body tensed like a vigilant leopard ready to attack at any moment. Silas turned around in surprise, seeing her suddenly awake and furious appearance. He raised his hands slightly in a gesture of innocence and surrender, the familiar lazy smile on his face. "Easy, love. No need to be so hostile. I'm just the guy who saved you from freezing on the street last night." His casual, playful tone only fueled Serena's anger further. In her eyes, this man's sloppy dress, unruly smile, and casual attitude were all signs of frivolity and unseriousness. "Save me." Serena's blue eyes turned cold, her gaze sharp enough to cut. "You stayed in my private hotel room all night while I was unconscious. What exactly did you do to me?" The misunderstanding took root and spread rapidly in her chaotic mind. She had heard countless news stories about men taking advantage of drunk women, and her extreme lack of security made her instinctively believe the worst-case scenario. She had fought so hard to protect her dignity and purity all these years, and now she thought she had been violated by a random street stranger. Her fingers trembled slightly with anger, but she forced herself to stay calm, her tone cold and forceful. "Answer me. Did you take advantage of me last night?" Silas stared at her furious, defensive expression, and finally understood the huge misunderstanding that had arisen. He could not help but let out a low laugh, helpless and amused. He was a top-tier elite who had countless upper-class women throwing themselves at him. He had never needed to take advantage of a drunk woman for any reason. Yet now, he was being accused of such a ridiculous thing by the most rigorous, cold woman in London's business circle. "Serena Hale," Silas said her full name slowly, his tone gentle but clear. "I carried you back, tucked you in, poured you warm water, and guarded you until you woke up. I didn't touch a single hair on your head improperly. You can check yourself carefully. There's no trace of anyone violating you." His words were calm and sincere, without any fluster or excuse. But Serena could not believe it. Her mind was still clouded by alcohol and panic. All she saw was a strange man in cheap casual clothes lingering in her private suite in the middle of the night. In her prejudiced eyes, a man with no status, no money, and no decent job would definitely seize any chance to take advantage of a wealthy female CEO. Get out. She pointed sharply at the door, her voice icy cold, every word filled with disgust and weariness. Leave my room immediately and don't appear in front of me again. If you dare to spread any rumors about this, I will make sure you never have a chance to stay in London. She was used to solving problems with absolute strength, used to suppressing all hidden dangers in the cradle. Faced with this inexplicable hidden danger, she chose to drive him away completely with the most ruthless attitude. Silas looked at her guarded, furious appearance, and did not argue further. He knew that explaining to a still drunk, panicked woman was futile. The more he defended himself, the more she would doubt him. He simply nodded lazily, raised his hands in a gesture of compliance, and walked slowly toward the door. Fine, I'll go. But for the record, I'm not that desperate. And you owe me a thank you, not a scolding. Before Serena could reply, Silas opened the door and stepped out of the suite, closing the door gently and silently behind him. The room instantly fell into dead silence. Serena sat rigidly on the bed, her anger gradually fading, replaced by overwhelming confusion and unease. She subconsciously checked her clothes and body, finding no abnormalities, no strange marks, no discomfort. The quilt was neatly tucked. Warm water and fruit lozenges were placed neatly on the bedside table, and the room temperature was just right. All the details were gentle and thoughtful, completely inconsistent with the vicious behavior she had imagined. A trace of hesitation flashed in her cold blue eyes. Had she misunderstood him? But the next second, her long-term defensive mentality suppressed the fleeting guilt. She shook her head firmly, telling herself not to be naive. Strangers' kindness always has a purpose. This sloppy, ordinary man must have some hidden motive, and his gentle behavior was just a disguise to gain her trust. She would never let her guard down easily, not after years of being betrayed and misunderstood by her own family, not after fighting alone in a cruel city. Lifting her hand to rub her aching forehead, Serena took a deep breath, her gaze turning cold and firm again. From this moment on, this mysterious ordinary man named Silas Knight was listed as a dangerous person in her heart, someone she must stay away from forever. Chapter 3, Unexpected Frequent Encounters. The next morning, London woke up from its nighttime indulgence, ushering in a rigorous, busy working day. The thick night fog dispersed. Bright sunlight streamed through the high-rise glass windows of the financial district, and the entire city fell into the fast-paced rhythm of work and competition. Serena got up early, took a hot shower, changed into a brand-new custom dark blue suit, and retied her long chestnut hair into a neat low ponytail. The drunken fragility and fluster of last night were completely wiped away, and she once again transformed into the cold, rigorous, invincible CEO of Hale Media Group. She had always been extremely good at hiding her emotions and adjusting her state. No matter how turbulent and uneasy her heart was, she could always present the most perfect and powerful appearance in front of outsiders. After a simple breakfast in the hotel restaurant, she returned to her company headquarters in the core business district of London. As soon as she stepped into the office, piles of documents, pending meetings, and work reports flooded in. She quickly devoted herself to intense work, forcing herself to forget the messy misunderstanding and the strange man from last night. She told herself that it was just an accidental trivial episode in her life, insignificant and not worth disturbing her pace. She had spent too many years clinging to work to escape loneliness and pain, and this time would be no different. However, fate had already quietly tied their fates together. What Serena never expected was that after that night of misunderstanding, she and Silas Knight would start encountering each other repeatedly in every corner of London's social and business circles, as if the world had shrunk overnight, forcing her to face the man she wanted to avoid most. The first unexpected encounter happened at a casual industry exchange tea party 3 days later. The tea party was held in a high-end garden villa in West London, attended by emerging entrepreneurs, media practitioners, and young industry elites. The atmosphere was relaxed and casual, different from the tense and formal business summits Serena usually attended. She originally planned to attend briefly to expand industry connections, then leave early to deal with company affairs. Dressed in an elegant and capable business dress, she stood in the crowd, calmly dealing with the polite greetings and compliments from surrounding peers. Her cold and aloof temperament made her the focus of the scene, yet she always kept a polite distance from everyone, never engaging in excessive intimacy. Just as she was holding a glass of champagne and preparing to walk toward the garden terrace to get some fresh air, a familiar lazy voice suddenly came from beside her ear. "Fancy seeing you here, Ms. CEO." Serena's body stiffened instantly. She turned her head abruptly, and her cold blue eyes fell on the man not far away. Silas was leaning casually against the European-style railing, one hand in the pocket of his worn black jeans, the other holding a glass of fruit juice instead of alcohol. He was still dressed in his usual sloppy style, a loose black oversized hoodie covering his tall figure, no expensive accessories, no elite demeanor, looking completely out of place among the well-dressed elites around him. Yet despite his ordinary dress, his stunningly handsome facial features and lazy, casual temperament made him impossible to ignore. Many young female elites at the scene had secretly glanced at him more than once, curious about this good-looking but unknown ordinary man. Serena's brows furrowed tightly, and obvious cold disgust flashed in her eyes. She had thought they would never meet again after that night's misunderstanding, but he actually appeared in her industry circle. Suppressing the unease and weariness in her heart, she put on a cold and distant polite smile, the standard social expression she used to reject all unfamiliar closeness. "I don't think we need to have any interaction, sir." She spoke succinctly and alienated, intending to end the conversation directly and walk away. But Silas did not take the hint. He straightened up lazily, walked 2 steps closer to her, his forest green eyes filled with faint amusement as he stared at her rigid, guarded appearance. "Still mad at me?" He chuckled softly, his voice low and magnetic, without any aggression. "I thought you'd figure out you misunderstood me after sobering up. Turns out you're still holding a grudge." "There's no misunderstanding." Serena's tone turned colder, her eyes sharp. "I just don't like strangers who invade my private space. Please stay away from me." Her words were blunt and decisive, leaving no room for negotiation. The conversation between the two attracted the attention of several surrounding industry peers. Everyone was extremely confused. The cold and lofty Ms. Hale never took the initiative to conflict with anyone in the circle, yet she was obviously extremely resistant to this ordinary-looking man. Moreover, this unknown man dared to take the initiative to approach Serena Hale, who no one dared to provoke easily. Many people began to whisper and guess their relationship secretly. Sensing the surrounding curious gazes, Serena's expression became more ugly. She hated being the center of gossip, especially because of a man she disliked. Silas saw her embarrassment clearly, and wisely stopped teasing her. He raised his hands in a gesture of surrender, his smile gentle and accommodating. "All right, I'll keep my distance. No more pestering. Relax your tense shoulders, you look like you're about to break." His casual words hit the nail on the head. Serena had been tense for too long, every muscle in her body habitually maintaining a vigilant, defensive state, never daring to relax for a second. Before Serena could respond, Silas turned around and walked away casually, blending into the crowd without lingering, as if he had really just greeted an ordinary acquaintance. But Serena's mood was completely ruined. She stood in place, her chest tight and irritable. She could not understand why this man kept appearing in her life. What she did not know was that this was only the beginning. In the following days, their encounters became more and more frequent, almost ubiquitous. She would run into him at the weekend street food market near her apartment. While she was queuing up to buy takeaway sandwiches alone, he would lean against the wall not far away, eating fries casually, greeting her with a playful smile when their eyes met. She would meet him at the late-night convenience store when she worked overtime until midnight. He was buying cold beer and snacks, dressed in his usual casual clothes, looking like a lazy young man who stayed up all night with nothing to do. She even encountered him at her company's peripheral supplier docking meeting. While all the people present were dressed in formal business suits, he was the only one in casual streetwear, sitting lazily in the corner of the meeting room, listening to the report casually, as if he was just an ordinary staff member accompanying the team. Every encounter made Serena more confused and irritable. In her eyes, Silas was a jobless, ordinary drifter with no fixed career and no social status. How could he freely appear in all her social and business scenarios, overlapping with her life track again and again? Her colleagues and partners also gradually noticed this strange situation. Many people secretly gossiped that the cold and high-ranking CEO Hale seemed to have an ambiguous connection with a poor, ordinary-looking young man. Some people even took the initiative to ask Serena about Silas's identity, making her extremely embarrassed. Faced with all the doubts and strange gazes from the outside world, Serena's prejudice against Silas deepened day by day. She thought he was deliberately pestering her, deliberately appearing around her to gain her attention, trying to cling to her for wealth and status. Every time they met, she would keep a cold and alienated attitude, ignore his greetings, avoid his sight, and try her best to cut off all contact with him. But Silas never took her cold attitude to heart. He never pestered her excessively, never asked for anything from her, never spread any rumors about their accidental night encounter. He always maintained a gentle and moderate distance, greeting her casually when they met, and leaving quietly when she ignored him. He saw through all her cold pretense, understood all her unease and vigilance, and chose to tolerate all her bad temper silently. Slowly, subtle changes began to take place in Serena's heart. She found that this man who she had always regarded as an idle loser was far more delicate and kind than she thought. When she was blocked by a tricky reporter after a press conference and was forced into an awkward dead end, Silas would casually step forward, use his humorous and glib words to defuse the reporter's sharp questions, and quietly help her out of the siege without leaving a name. When she stayed up late working overtime and forgot to eat dinner, and had low blood sugar and dizziness, he would quietly place a warm sandwich and hot milk at the front desk of her company, without signing his name, letting her receive the warmth without knowing the source. When she was ridiculed and suppressed by old senior entrepreneurs in the industry for being a young female boss, he would casually say a few precise and incisive industry remarks, instantly hitting the key points of the senior's logical loopholes, subtly helping her regain her momentum in the conversation. All his help was silent and low-key, never deliberate, never utilitarian, never asking for any return. Serena gradually began to doubt her own judgment. If he was really a vain and greedy man who wanted to cling to her, why would he never take the initiative to ask her for anything? Why would he help her silently again and again, even bearing her cold face and prejudice without complaint? The cold wall in her heart that had been built for many years was quietly shaking, cracking tiny gaps because of this ordinary-looking man's silent gentleness. Chapter 4. Undercurrents, Silent Tenderness. Early autumn descended upon London softly. Cool winds swept the ginkgo leaves across the glass facades of the City of London's skyscrapers, chasing away the last traces of summer heat and quietly stirring the ambiguous bond lingering between them. Serena Hale's life remained swallowed by endless work. Meetings, reports, project coordination, and public relations crises filled her days, a high-pressure routine that formed the foundation of her independence, yet also caged her soul. Somewhere along the way, an inescapable figure had woven himself into her rigid world. Silas Knight's presence no longer felt like an annoying intrusion. Instead, he had become the only steady, soothing refuge in her exhausting daily grind. After the weekly senior executive meeting, the company finalized a 6-month-long transnational media cooperation project with one of London's most prestigious old media giants. The procedures were intricate, the competition fierce, and countless enterprises across the industry were vying for the lucrative opportunity. Serena had burned the midnight oil for an entire week, polishing the project proposal day and night. The non-stop workload drained her energy, leaving heavy dark circles under her eyes and a pervasive weariness she could no longer hide. Dusk fell, dragging a sustained autumn rain over the city. Fine drizzle shrouded London in damp mist, chilly wind seeping through the floor-to-ceiling windows of her spacious presidential office. Serena massaged her throbbing temples, her brows furrowed as her fingertips skimmed the dense clauses on her computer screen. The old media conglomerate set extremely high cooperation standards, and its principal negotiator was notoriously rigorous and sharp-eyed, having rejected countless outstanding proposals from rival companies. Securing this partnership was akin to climbing a sheer cliff. Her secretary stepped into the office timidly, a troubled look on her face. "Ms. Hale, you're required to attend the pre-cooperation dinner party at 8 tonight. All senior executives from the partnering firm will be present. But the rain is torrential, your personal driver has requested sudden leave, and there are no taxis available downstairs." Serena did not lift her gaze, her tone weary yet resolute. "It's fine. I'll drive myself. You've been working overtime non-stop for a week, ma'am. Your state isn't ideal, and the rain will severely limit road visibility. It's far too dangerous." The secretary couldn't help but protest. Serena's fingers paused over the keyboard, a flicker of helplessness crossing her heart. She knew perfectly well how exhausted she was, but the business world offered no mercy or reprieve. For years, no one had ever cut her slack, no one had ever sheltered her from the storms simply because she was tired or struggling. "It's all right. Prepare my things. We're leaving soon." Just as the secretary turned to comply, the office door was pushed open gently. A lazy, familiar voice drifted in, its relaxed tone instantly easing the taut tension filling the room. "The roads are slippery in the rain, and you're running on no sleep. Don't push yourself to drive." Silas leaned casually against the doorframe, dressed in his usual plain black hoodie with the cuffs rolled up loosely over his clean-cut forearms. His dark brown hair was slightly damp from the drizzle, softening his usual laid-back demeanor and lending him a crisp, refined edge. He held a simple paper tote bag in one hand, his tall, relaxed frame standing quietly in the doorway, his gaze steady and fixed on the worn-out woman before him. Serena's head snapped up, weariness and astonishment flashing across her eyes. She instantly masked all her fatigue, tightening her icy, formidable aura and returning to her cold, distant self. "What are you doing here?" This was the top-floor executive suite, guarded by strict security that barred ordinary outsiders entirely. She could not fathom how this seemingly ordinary man with no apparent background kept appearing effortlessly in her private space. Sensing her confusion, Silas made no attempt to explain the truth. He pushed off the doorframe and strolled slowly into the office, his tone casual. "Just passing by. Thought I'd chance it, and sure enough, you're still buried in work." It was a flimsy, transparent excuse. Serena saw right through it but was too drained to press further, her tone sharp and dismissive. "I'm busy. I don't have time for idle chat. Please leave." Undeterred by her cold dismissal, Silas showed no displeasure whatsoever. He set the paper bag lightly on the corner of her desk. "I'm not here to distract you. I just brought you something on my way over." Serena glanced indifferently at the bag, her eyes cold and skeptical. "I don't need it. Take it away. It's nothing valuable, no need to be on guard." A faint, Gentle smile tugged at Silas's lips, his tone patient and warm. There's warm congee and a sandwich, light on the stomach. You haven't eaten properly all day, and your stomach can't handle sustained high-intensity work on an empty stomach. There's also a cup of hot cocoa, something sweet to ease your tense nerves, far better than running purely on coffee. He pinpointed her daily habits perfectly, no deliberate inquiry needed, every word utterly accurate. The precision of his observation sent a faint tremor through Serena's heart. She was notorious for forgetting to eat when swamped with work, surviving on endless cups of coffee, a detail even her closest assistant had never fully noticed. Yet this man, whom she had treated coldly and distantly on countless occasions, saw every fragment of her hidden exhaustion. Serena fell silent for a long moment, the ice around her heart softening minutely. Still, her tone remained stiff and unyielding. That's none of your business. It's not meddling. Silas leaned forward slightly, his gaze clear, sincere, and free of all hidden motives or frivolity. I just hate seeing you burn yourself out. The simple sentence struck straight into the softest corner of her heart. For 27 years, the world had only ever seen her success, her dominance, her ruthless decisiveness. Everyone admired the young female entrepreneur who had built an empire from nothing, who stood unyielding against every storm. No one saw her exhaustion. No one pitied her relentless struggles. No one ever told her she did not have to push herself to the breaking point. Her family only ever criticized and demanded. Her peers only ever competed and schemed. Her subordinates only respected her status and power. Only Silas cut through her dazzling reputation and icy facade, truly seeing the tired, vulnerable woman hiding beneath her armor. This selfless, uncalculating kindness was a grace she had never once received in her life. Silas did not overstay or take the opportunity to ingratiate himself. He gestured toward the rainy window. I'll drive you to the dinner. Taxis are impossible to find tonight, and you're in no state to drive safely. I'll wait downstairs. Take all the time you need, I won't rush you. Before Serena could refuse, he turned and walked out slowly, his demeanor relaxed and perfectly measured. He did not intrude, did not pester, simply left her with a quiet, thoughtful safety net. The office fell silent save for the patter of rain against the glass. Serena stared blankly at the paper bag on her desk, her mind tangled with conflicting emotions. She had always assumed all kindness in the world came with a price, that every attempt at closeness hid some hidden agenda. Yet try as she might, she could find no trace of selfish motive in Silas's repeated generosity. Finally, she could not bring herself to turn him away. She opened the bag slowly. The congee was still perfectly warm, soft and soothing for her strained stomach. The sandwich was fresh and well-balanced, light yet satisfying. Steam curled gently from the hot cocoa, its sweet, warm aroma wrapping around her senses. They were ordinary, humble foods, yet they comforted her far more than the extravagant Michelin meals she endured at endless business banquets. She ate quietly, the week-long tension coiled tight in her chest finally unwinding for the first time. 40 minutes later, Serena finished preparing herself. She changed into an elegant off-white custom gown, shedding her sharp workplace aura and revealing a quiet, gentle beauty. She walked slowly out of the office lobby. Chilly night wind swept over her as she stepped outside, carrying damp rain mist. She pulled her shawl tighter over her shoulders. Beneath the neon night traffic and blurred rain haze, a low-key black car parked quietly at the curb. The window rolled down, revealing Silas's lazy, warm profile. Still dressed in his simple hoodie, he parked discreetly away from the lobby crowds, calm and unassuming. Finished. Let's go. His voice was soft, inherently calming. For the first time, Serena did not refuse. She slid into the passenger seat. The car was warm and tidy, wrapped in a clean, refreshing scent that banished the cold dampness of the rain. For the first time in a long while, she felt utterly stable and at ease. The car merged smoothly into the night traffic. Silas drove with steady, skilled precision, cruising gently to avoid jostling her, accommodating her fragile state perfectly. The carriage fell into peaceful silence. No forced small talk, no awkward tension. Soft background music mingled with the pattering rain outside, creating a tranquil, healing atmosphere. Serena stared out the window at the neon lights blurring through the rain, her chaotic thoughts gradually settling. After a long hesitation, she finally broke the silence. "Why do you keep helping me?" Her tone was calm, free of suspicion or accusation, only genuine confusion. She had treated him coldly, unfairly, harshly, pushing him away at every turn. Yet he remained gentle, tolerant, and endlessly supportive, never holding a single grudge. Silas kept his eyes on the road, his fingers loose on the steering wheel. He smiled faintly, his tone sincere and unfeigned. "No special reason. I just think you deserve to be treated well." 10 simple words, plain and unadorned, yet they pierced straight through to the most vulnerable part of her soul. You deserve to be treated well. No one had ever said that to her in 27 years of life. Her entire existence had been a relentless struggle to prove her worth. She had strived relentlessly, hardened herself, endured every hardship, terrified of failure and rejection. She had always believed kindness and favor were only rewards for strength and perfection. Never once had anyone told her she was worthy of tenderness simply by being herself. A faint heat pricked the corners of her eyes, years of suppressed loneliness and grievance threatening to spill over. She forced her emotions steady, turning to gaze at the man beside her, her gaze complex and moved. "I've never been kind to you." Her voice came out low and hoarse. "I've misunderstood you, ignored you, spoken harshly to you, even embarrassed you in public." Silas's smile softened, his green eyes filled with indulgent warmth as he glanced at her briefly. "I know. Then why keep helping me?" she pressed, desperate for a clear answer. Silas returned his gaze to the rainy road ahead, his tone lazy yet unshakable, brimming with long-hidden affection. "I know your coldness is a disguise, your strength is armor. You sharpen your edges against the world to protect the fragile, lonely girl inside you. I don't mind your bad temper or your defenses. I just want to protect the you that no one else sees." Serena fell completely silent. All her fortitude, all her defenses, all her deliberate coldness crumbled utterly beneath his perceptive, gentle gaze. No one had ever seen through her pretense. No one had ever tolerated her sharpness. No one had ever reached past her layers of ice to cradle her vulnerability with gentle hands. Only Silas saw every ounce of her forced strength and still chose to stay, to care, to shield her silently. The car glided to a stop outside the banquet venue. The towering building blazed with brilliant lights, lined with luxury cars and elegantly dressed guests, embodying the opulence of London's high society. Silas cut the engine, turning to the stunned woman beside him, softening his tone to ease her tension. "We're here. Go on in. Don't stress too much, just stay steady." Serena pulled herself back from her thoughts, suppressing the tumult in her heart and whispering a quiet, sincere thank you. It was the first time she had let go of all prejudice and distance, offering him genuine gratitude. Silas's eyes curved gently. "No need. If anyone gives you trouble or you hit a wall tonight, message me anytime. I'm always here. No grand promises, no flowery vows." The quiet phrase "I'm always here" was warmer and more reassuring than any sweet lie. Serena pushed open the car door. The cold night wind brushed over her, yet it could not dispel the warmth settled deep in her chest. She glanced back at the man in the car, holding his gaze for a long moment, before turning and stepping into the glittering banquet hall. She did not yet know that this ordinary-seeming dinner had already been perfectly arranged for her, every obstacle quietly cleared away by the man waiting outside. Throughout the entire banquet, The notoriously harsh and demanding lead negotiator from the old media group was unexpectedly lenient toward Hale Media's proposal. He treated Serena with unprecedented kindness, waived strict requirements, and actively streamlined the cooperation procedures. All rival companies that had once threatened to seize the project fell completely silent, daring not provoke or compete with her. Every obstacle, every crisis, every hidden threat vanished without a trace. Serena secured the cooperation smoothly, the entire process far too effortless to be natural. Everyone praised Hale Media's strength and Serena's outstanding capability. Only she knew clearly that such unprecedented smoothness was no coincidence. The night deepened and the rain faded to a drizzle by the end of the banquet. Walking out of the luxurious venue, Serena spotted the familiar black car parked quietly by the road amid the cold night traffic. The window lowered once more, revealing Silas's warm, lazy face in the hazy night. "Finished. Let me drive you home." The night breeze was soft, the rain faint. That simple invitation gentled the entire autumn night and melted the layers of ice sealed in Serena's heart for years. In that moment, she finally understood. The ordinary, overlooked man the world dismissed as aimless and unremarkable had quietly become the only warm salvation in her rigid, gray life.